Hi everyone, and welcome to our webinar today, How to Measure and Enhance Your Remote Working Strategy. My name is Niamh and I'm joined today by my co-host Julie Flood, our account executive. And the reason that we're here today is we know that it's an extremely challenging and stressful time for everyone. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to actually put together a live demo for you to see both our product, but also to get some really good tips on your own remote working strategy. And at the moment, because it's such a difficult time to navigate, we feel that being methodical and actually starting from scratch and knowing your actual employees and getting their data is really important. So we're going to go through now what we're going to look at today. So why are we here? So what we're doing is we really want to figure out how we can help you enhance your own remote working strategy. So Julie's going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about the impact that COVID-19 is having on your workplace, and you know this as well as anyone else. So we're going to go through some of the stats around that. What are the challenges of remote working? And in particular, what are the challenges that are occurring throughout this time that you need to be mindful of? And then we're going to go into a demo of what Talivest can actually do. So we're going to show you our insights tool and how that can help you with your own remote working strategy. And finally, then we're going to go through some of the top tips. So make sure you stay tuned to the very end of the webinar. And what we have today is we have a good mix on our audience. So I'd like to welcome you all. So I know we have HR managers, we have people from large companies and small. So there's going to be something for everyone in our talk today. So I'd like to now hand you over to Julie, who's going to talk to you about why we're here.
Thanks, Niamh. So Talivest empowers you to gather, analyse and understand your workforce data. Especially at a time like this, data is critical for you to understand how COVID-19 is impacting your employees. Through our Insights tool, you will have access to all of your remote workforce data. We have developed a new remote working survey to allow you to collect feedback from employees on wellbeing, productivity, communication and support. It's crucial now more than ever to make sure your employees are engaged and happy for the long run. We have done all the hard work for you, all the questions are ready to go, the dashboards are in real time and we're quick to implement. Niamh is going to take you through the impact COVID-19 is having on work.
Thanks, Julie. Yeah, so I'm sure that you've seen this impact yourself in your workplace, and the way that we live and work has completely changed and it's going to continue to change. So even just thinking about Boris Johnson's announcements last night, you know, the way that we work is going to be completely different to the way it was before. So for many of you, you're already seeing the impact in your teams, and what we're here today to do is to help you give you the tools that will actually help you get through this. So looking at the way the pandemic is growing, again, we're not showing this to alarm you. We just want to show you the backdrop to which your remote working strategy is taking place. Some of you, it'll be your first time ever doing remote working. For others, you might have done it periodically. But for more of you, it's going to be a brand new thing that you're going to be doing, is making sure that your teams can be productive and healthy and safe through this crisis. So as the pandemic continues to grow, we're getting a lot of conversations. We're having a lot of conversations with HR leaders who are wondering, how do I measure productivity? How do I know if my workforce is engaged when they're so dispersed across many locations? So looking at productivity, the survey was done a couple of weeks ago by I4CP, and they interviewed more than 500 HR decision makers. They found that 96% of people said productivity was down. And this is actually up from 64% just a couple of weeks earlier. So we can see how quickly things are escalating. And what I'd like to ask you today is, how do you measure your own productivity at work? How do you measure your team's productivity? And what we're going to show you in our Talivest demo is how you can actually use our tool to do that. So looking at the top 3 concerns, and here we're focusing on the concerns of HR leaders because we know there are a lot of HR leaders on the call today. So the CIPD actually did a survey a few weeks ago, again, all around COVID-19, and looking at what are those top 3 concerns that people have. So the first one is providing clear guidance to employees. So how are you communicating to your employees? And in addition to that, are you listening to them? The second one is continuing business operations, really important. How can you keep business going when things are completely up in the air in terms of where people are working, how they're working, and how they're actually being productive? And finally then, keeping the workplace safe. So whether that's a physical workplace or whether that's a virtual one that people are joining from their own homes, how can you make sure that people are physically and mentally safe and happy? I wanted to show you this because what we're seeing is a massive amount and increasing queries about employee analytics tools, which is what Talivest is. And Gartner alone has received over 7,000 queries in the last 3 months just about employee analytics tools. So what this is showing us is there's a real need for data as people become more dispersed and they're in multiple locations. Companies want to show that they still care about their employees and that they can give them a voice. So for us, we're seeing the value of employee analytics tools more than ever now because of this crisis. And if we even look at how remote working is on the up, so Zoom, which is what we're using today to host this webinar, they've actually seen a double in their share price in the last month. It's been the most downloaded app on the Apple Store in the last couple of weeks, and all of their 2020 users exceeds everything from 2019. So they have more users now than ever before. So you might be using maybe Zoom, or you might be using some other way of communicating with your employees by video call. So that's something that we're seeing that's continuing to rise. So what I'd like to do now is hand you over to Julie, who's going to go through some of those remote working challenges.
Thanks, Niamh. So if we look at the example from Buffer, they're a fully remote working organisation. They conducted a survey on the state of remote work in 2019 and found these to be the top challenges: unplugging after work, loneliness, communication, distractions at home, and staying motivated. CEO and co-founder of Buffer said, "Our world has been turned upside down as a result of the pandemic. This is not normal remote working. These are some of the challenges that are currently being faced: getting COVID-19, looking after sick family members, childcare, housemates, social or self-isolation, and mental health." We will look at solutions to all of these challenges, but first, Niamh is going to give you a demo of Talivest COVID-19 Insights dashboard.
Thanks, Julie. Yeah, and make sure you stay tuned for those tips and tricks at the end after our demo. So a little bit about our Insights tool. So I'd just like to take you back to what Julie mentioned earlier, which is the COVID-19 Insights dashboard. We've done all the hard work for you. We've put together survey questions that are based around best practices, all to do with what will impact a remote worker. This dashboard is going to help you collect employee feedback easily. It's going to give you the tools you need to measure your own remote working strategy for your workforce. And because of this, you're going to get data and actions that you can take that will help enhance motivation, productivity, and well-being of your employees. So what I'd like to do now is just take you through the demo. So I'm just going to switch my screen here into the demo. So when you log into your Talivest Insights tool, you'll see a dashboard. So this dashboard shows your remote working survey, which is active. You can see here how many were sent the survey, how many completed it, and the overall completion rate. So we like to keep it clean and simple. So we just click on Manage Survey. And what we want to do is, if you want to collect employee feedback, it's as easy as just putting in the first name, the last name, and the email address of your employee. But of course, you're probably going to be targeting a lot of employees at once. So you can import from a CSV file over here by just clicking on this button. You can import your recipients, and this is a great way to actually use if you have a HR tool like Workday or some other tool. You can simply copy and paste all of the information into this template and then import it. And then it just takes 2 clicks to send the survey. So once you've sent the survey, you're going to look at things like reminders. So one of the features that we put in place here, which is different to a lot of other survey tools, is you can see here that you can send reminders automatically. So gone are the days of going out and sending multiple emails from HR teams trying to get people to complete an employee survey. It's all done for you. So you can see here, you can choose your cadence, you can decide how many days you want a reminder to be sent out after. And then of course, if you want a second reminder, you can choose the cadence there as well. So moving down here to the recipients table, this is where you can see everyone who's received a survey. And I'll just make you aware here that even though you can see people who've received the survey and completed it, you can't actually see their responses tied back to them. So this is how we keep the survey anonymous. We make sure that we get a number of responses from all your employees before we show you the results in your dashboard. So this is very important because what we've seen is customers of ours who've switched from an in-house survey using any kind of a survey tool that they create the survey themselves. Once they switch to Talivest, they see a massive increase in both the response rate, but also in the types of answers that they get. So rather than completing the survey and kind of feeling that there's maybe a team on the other end who's going to read the results, you're going to actually be safe in the knowledge that all the information you give is anonymous. So just looking here, you can see the sent date. And then if you want, you can also send a reminder to someone, again, a manual reminder if you're feeling that you're still not getting enough responses. That's quick and easy to do. So I'm now going to go into the results section. So this is the bit where you're going to see all of your dashboard and all of your insights. So here in the top, we have our filters. This is one of the reasons that we feel that our tool is really useful, is you're going to be able to filter all of the response rates. You're going to be able to filter by things like department, by gender, and by people manager or non-people manager. So if you want to see, how productive and engaged are your managers while working from home compared to non-people managers, you can do that. You can also do things like get responses to a question. So what's the biggest benefit you've seen so far to working remotely? You can decide to choose what way you want to filter that. And let's just say I want to decide, okay, I want to see the sales team and how their productivity and engagement is. I can just simply apply that filter, and then all of the responses are going to change down below. So if I just click quickly reset that, I'm going to take you through the overview table. So as I mentioned earlier, we've done all the research on remote working, what the best practices are, and we've identified these 4 pillars that actually impact on an employee while they're remote working. So tools and resources, do people have the things they need to do the job? This can come down to anything like Zoom, some kind of a video call. It can come down to things like their actual internet. Is it good enough? Is it fast enough? And so on. Then you have team support. So Julie mentioned loneliness as one of the top factors for people working from home. You know, how supportive are teams on that? How supportive are managers? Communication, so that's both listening and speaking with your employees. And as you can see here from the tool, it's extremely important to collect feedback, but also to let people know what's happening. Well-being is one that, of course, is hugely important at this time, both physical and emotional and mental well-being. So we have all the questions done out that you can actually take advantage of by using this tool. So if I just click into well-being, for instance, we can actually see all the responses here, but we can also see what is the question that's having the highest impact on your well-being score. So for instance, this question, what is the impact of remote working on your mental health and well-being? You can see here that that scored 2.9 out of 5 of all your employees. And this is actually having a high impact on your well-being score. So this is the same for all of the different responses that you'll see. And just to remind you as well that this is a very quick and simple survey for your employees to do. So it's not something that's going to take them a long time, and it's very user friendly as well. I want to show you the employee NPS. So a lot of you will already be familiar with Net Promoter Score, possibly from a customer perspective. So the employee Net Promoter Score is a branding question, and it asks your employees the question, how likely are you to recommend this company as a great place to work to family and friends? And you can see here the score goes from -100 all the way through to +100. What this will allow you to do is to identify how loyal your employees are. And you can also see the number of detractors. Those are the people who give you a low score. The passives are the ones who give you a kind of in-between score. And then your promoters are those who score 9 or 10 out of 10 for how likely they are to recommend you. What we show you underneath is the trends. So let's just say you do your remote working survey, you launch it in the next couple of weeks, and then you want to take action on all the feedback you're getting. What your next best step to do would be is to send another survey a month later and to identify, is your NPS going up or down? So we see this really as a barometer for you to see at a glance how engaged and how motivated your teams are. So I want to move down then to your import data. So you can see that you can actually split up all of your data as you bring it into the tool. So you can see where people have responded from. You can check out different gender if you want and see who responded as male or female. And then what I want to show you here is the pros of remote working. So we always include a section for people to leave their own feedback through comments, but we do this through pros and cons. And the way that we gather this feedback is through sentiment analysis. So we have machine learning in the back end of our tool that actually identifies whether something someone says is positive, negative, or neutral. So because this is the pros, most things that people say are positive. So I can actually filter and just show the most positive responses. And if you want, you can actually click on this little star icon and that will favorite it for later. So you can actually keep an eye on various different comments if you want to keep them for later. So then what I want to show you is our word cloud. So if I click in here, and this is a really good way, rather than actually having to go through all of the responses, you can see them at a glance. You can see how many people said what, and you can even click in and see more information about each one. You can also type in, so if you want to search for a particular question or particular comment, you can type it in there and that will show up in your results. So the rest of the dashboard is very similar in that we have our word cloud and so on. And then we have a lot of bespoke questions all about working remotely. And as I mentioned earlier, we've done a lot of research on what those answers and questions are. So if I just scroll back up to the top, I'm going to take you through the last section here, which is reporting. So what you can see in here is when surveys were sent. You can also see what were the really popular response days. And then all of your saved responses are in here as well. What we do, Talivest, is we actually put together then a PowerPoint presentation using our data science that we have on the back end. So we look at your responses in the dashboard, and we then look at the story that this is telling, put together a presentation, and you can then present that to your own leadership team. So again, this saves you hours of work of actually putting together your own presentation, reading through the comments and so on. So that's all PowerPoint ready, and you can talk to us about that at the end as well if you're interested. Then your options. So finally, this is the last section I want to show you. So I talked earlier about how you can actually filter your information by manager or non-people manager. You can actually call these whatever you like. So these are your own custom flags. They're for you to use. So say you could flag people as maybe male, female, or you could flag them in many different ways. Maybe you have other data that you want to use. So that's a way for you to customize all of the information that comes in. Then in terms of a schedule, so let's just say, as I mentioned earlier, you have your remote working survey. The first one goes out in the next couple of weeks. You can actually enable a schedule then and send this survey every month, every 2 months, every 3 months, and so on. So this means that, again, you don't need to do the work in a month's time to set up and send a survey. That's all done for you. So I can just save that there, and then your schedule will be saved. So that's the end of our live demo. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to flick back, and Julie is going to go through the next section, which is all about some of the tips and tricks for remote working.
Thanks, Niamh. Great demo. So the first challenge that we face is unplugging from work. So designated workspace. Give yourself an area where this is for work only. This will help put you into a routine. Plus, when your working day is done, you can mentally step away from the space. Evening rituals. Set a new after work routine, try a new cooking recipe, clear out the press that's annoying you, listen to some music, dance around the kitchen with the kids or the dog, create some time for you. Unwind after work, do an activity that calms you, whether it's meditation, yoga, stretches, workouts, all great ways to switch off.
That's great, thanks Julie. And I know earlier we were talking about baking banana bread, so we might do that over a Zoom call. So loneliness then was the second factor that really highly impacts people who are working from home. So what can you do to combat loneliness? Well, of course, get together with other people. It's a lot harder when you're not face to face, but there are some really creative ways that you can do this with your teams. So team virtual lunches. So this is something that we've seen working really well with some of our customers. They actually get together all of their teams for a virtual lunch, and so the people will be sitting at home having their lunch, but meanwhile having a chat while doing it, and again using some sort of video conferencing tool to facilitate that. Regular coffee breaks are a really good way of just having a space for people to join. So it's kind of like your virtual water cooler. So you can set it up for 11 a.m. every day. If people want to join, they can. If they're not available, that's absolutely fine. So it's just a way for people to come along and have a chat with others about stuff that's not about work. A buddy system, now we've seen this work extremely well. This is where 2 to 3 people are paired up together, and then they check in on each other every couple of days to see how they're getting on. So again, it's a way for you to show that you care about your employees and you want to make sure that they're actually being taken care of. Finally, then, a wellbeing outlet. So by giving people the opportunity to express how they're feeling, this is a way that you're going to be able to make changes to your remote working strategy. So we showed you our Talivest tool earlier that you could use to collect all of this feedback en masse. And this is a great way for you to be able to field off some of those responses as well that are coming in, whether you're a manager and they're coming in through your email, maybe they're in a shared inbox with HR and you're getting flooded with questions. So again, think of ways that you can collect feedback that's a lot easier for yourselves to manage. You may already have an employee assistance program. If you do, now's a good time to communicate that and let people know that that's available. And then finally, some fun ways or fun things to do. We've put some examples there. You could share playlists, photos, maybe do a quiz, party pieces, and so on. So there's lots of things that you can do using a video call or even just using a messenger tool or your email as well.
Perfect. So the next section, communication. It's really important, obviously, inform and listen. Communication is a two-way street, and it's vital to keep employees informed during a time like this, but it's also equally as important to listen for employees when they're giving feedback. Using tools like Talivest will allow you to gain anonymous feedback from employees to feed into your remote working strategy. This will enable you to make positive changes. Video first. When on meetings, turn your camera on. It's good to see people's faces. It's personal. Set a meeting cadence. So how often do you have meetings? Are they daily, weekly, monthly? set a cadence that works for you and your team. And here's an example of some of the meetings we have here at Talivest that helps us be efficient together. So we run a weekly team meeting where we run through objectives and updates, and we can address blockers or concerns. A daily huddle, just to give quick updates on the day ahead. Weekly wrap up, we celebrate wins and lessons learned, and one-to-ones, as you probably know, these are great for growth and performance.
Thanks, Julie. So moving on to distractions, I have a little dog at home, so that's something I'm very familiar with his barking. So first of all, set boundaries. So whether that's a physical boundary, it might be a space like a room that only you are going in and out of and nobody else is allowed. And so that's your physical workspace, as Julie mentioned earlier, and setting those boundaries. Scheduling. So for instance, if you have parents who are doing the really challenging task at the moment of trying to take care of their kids while working, and this is absolutely, I mean, a huge challenge for the parents that are working in your organization. So what can you do to help them? So if they have a schedule that works for them, let's say it's working in the evenings or maybe spreading out all their work over a 7-day week, is that something that you can facilitate? And if you do have a parent group, that they can actually get together and share tips with each other online. So that's really useful as well, because obviously this is going to be hugely challenging for them. There's some practical tips then. RT are hosting classes at the end of the month, and they're starting those off. So that's going to be something that your kids can tune into and actually watch along with. And Kids Type is a great way for kids to learn how to type. So that could be another task or activity that you could do with your kids. Joe Wicks is hosting PE Monday to Friday at 9 a.m. on YouTube, and I think that started on Monday, so that would be another great way to get your kids moving. And then finally, having a routine with your housemates or your partners. So if you live with other housemates, or if the people that work in your organization, or maybe a younger workforce and live with a lot of housemates, what can they do in a routine that will really help them be less distracted? So it might be having lunch break at the same time, so that there's less kind of noise in the background when someone's on a call and so on. And it's the same if you have a partner at home or if you have somebody else that you're living with. Just make sure that you're aware of each other's routine.
Perfect. So staying motivated, I think this is something that everyone can relate to. So a tip that you could do is set goals and make to-do lists. Make a plan for the top 3 goals you want to achieve each day and tick off your achievements when completed. Use a timer and take breaks. Don't get bogged down all day on the same task. Set a timer for yourself to break up the day, and remember to take some breaks. Stop to make a cuppa and recharge. And recognition and kudos. If one of your teammates or colleagues is doing some amazing work, give them some kudos and get into the habit of doing it, and then in turn hopefully someone will tell you how amazing your work is.
Great, thanks Julie. So finally we wanted to give you one last tip, which is on health and well-being, because we know this is extremely important right now. So information sharing, when you are sharing information, make sure you keep it consistent and regular. And you know, I suppose there's a lot going on with the media and there's a lot going on with social media, so making sure that you share information that's going to help people. Listen, don't minimize. So again, as we mentioned earlier, being able to collect feedback from your employees is really important, and to understand that they all have various different situations going on that are going to have an impact on their own health and well-being. Another great way to get feedback and to understand how to boost health and well-being is to crowdsource your ideas. So I'd say nearly every single person in your organization has an amazing tip on how they keep their well-being fit. So that's something to do. Maybe you hold a competition and get people to all submit their ideas, and then do a lucky dip as for a prize, you know, for a one for all voucher. Or, you know, you could just crowdsource ideas if you have some type of intranet or a community tool, which we also have. And if you're interested in that, you can let us know. So then finally, I'm just going to flick it back over to Julie for our close and then the next steps.
Thanks, Niamh. So thank you everybody for listening. Get in touch if you would like to know more about our remote work survey. We're here to help, and we're happy to help. And we will email you all of these slides and the recording of the demo as well. You can see here there's some of our contact information, so you can get in touch here. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks a million. Bye.
Bye.